we'll start and let folks trickle in. But yeah, we're here for call 62, the governance working group, Stacks governance working group. It's beautiful to be back. We had a little bit of a break last time. I had a headache that I couldn't get through, but I'm excited to get back in, and had some folks file into the Discord with some updates that we can get to. But thank you kindly for those of you who've made it, and hopefully we get some more folks in, but maybe we have some good discussion and some updates for each other anyhow. I can start with some updates. We got into a little bit earlier around some very, very exciting work from Haas, integrating the tooling from our consensus flow spec we've been working on for some time now. Haas spent quite a few days in a row heads down on figuring out and hacking ways to make PolicyKit digestible for users, and have done some remarkable things in terms of including posts and threads, right into uploading into a PolicyKit document, right, without folks having to go through a PolicyKit flow. Updates to the threads get uploaded as documents, and so let me mute this for us. In addition to some of the other ways of making consensus dialogue legitimate, of course, including the indigenous systems design. In addition to some of those more exciting and surreal moments in recent weeks and previous weeks, we were getting folks ready for this, knowing that this was coming down the road, that we had planned for it to come around this time. We knew that it was important to get folks familiar with, the system design as a whole of advocates, how we're thinking about it as a GovLab, ensuring that they know they have a voice in changing those structures, ensuring that different changes to the algorithm or creative ideas for Treasury, just important, explicit structure making, like representation, right, for the folks, right, as it relates to governance. All these things, in addition to getting into temporary clan designations, which is exciting in and of itself, and lends itself to all of those things. So that's what folks got exposed to in recent weeks, whether it's group calls or individual calls. We made sure to reach out to folks and got a whole lot of the most active advocates out of the way, right, in terms of through those processes. So that's been a big part of our workflow throughout the week. In addition to some of there's more consistent meetings between advocates around some exciting things there, whether it's the task creation work. We have some beautiful ideas flowing through those sessions that have been really consistent over quite a few weeks now, and other meetings around just general systems design and indigenous dialogue. So that'll be my update, but it's exciting. So I'm excited to hear from y'all as well. Let's see. Jason or Haas, go ahead, if you'd like to, or pass.
As Harold has been saying, we've been working on the consensus flow spec, and for maybe a couple of months now, maybe more, just trying to get everything right in the design phase, and then we got to implementation. And what we had in mind is to have people get onboarded to a new website, a new web app that through which they can do or open new issues, which would include some onboarding, maybe some resistance, because you jump in between platforms. But that requirement has changed to just have everything be through Discord. You can start an issue by posting in a certain channel, a special channel. The deliberations which happen are now happening in a thread in the issue message, and as the discussion moves along, the person who opened the issue is editing this issue to be turned into what we agreed to call a position on that issue. So once that position is ready during like 5 days discussion, that is then moved to another Discord channel. Still no interface, no other interface to use. The other channel, formal proposals, was used back then just as a standalone. Now it's the end of the funnel where people who contributed or signaled that they want to follow the issue might dissent, as in not agree with what that position holds. And that's about it. During 2 days, people get the chance to dissent. The repercussions of this mean that there's a collective process by which people define rules, change policies, and define even roles for people, like processes by which access to commons is modified. But yeah, this is exciting. It's simple, and it's hopefully accessible.
Yeah, and I think over the next 2 weeks, we'll see a whole lot of testing. Blockers to this, I couldn't imagine much blockers. I think it'll be important that we have some more robust testing outside of kind of separate from our system design as it is right now. We have an active proposal where we're really, capturing folks into some dialogue around the tooling as is, and getting some feedback kind of in a vacuum away from the system design of what's also in the consensus flow, this flow between clans. But what's beautiful is that all of the tooling has been built with that flow in mind. And we can see, right, all of these capacities for, these windows of time for bottom-up consensus, the flows between clans, picking up the tooling as they need it, right, and using it in different circumstances. So, this is really, really exciting to say the least. The accessibility through the system design matched with the tooling, right? This function of the lodge issues, right? And have your voice heard in council or decision-making processes, and streamlining voices, right? It's going to be surreal to tinker with it with each other. So yeah, I'll shut up now and see if there's any updates from Jason. I know you had a lot going on as well with Citicoins, and welcome, Merrick. Good to see you, Mike. Feel free to give us a stand-up as well if you'd like. I know you've been with us for whole days, it seems like, in recent weeks. But yeah, I'll shut up.
Yeah, well, first off, I just have to say I'm really excited to see all this coming together. And I know I've said that multiple times, but I mean, when we look at this having started as just a simple idea when we were originally discussing what governance was, to what tooling is already available now, to like these milestones you guys are approaching, this is huge, I think. And I think it could be a cool way to like replicate this model to use in other places. And definitely, like, anytime I encourage someone to think about governance, it's like, oh, you have to go down this road, because this road is very interesting and I think going to be very beneficial to how ecosystems can be designed and how that bottom-up consensus truly works. So just wanted to throw that out there. From my side of things on the stand-up, I have been, just swamped with Citicoins lately, so I haven't gotten much into this. I do want to say, Harold, if you need any more support, I'm really happy with what you did with the notes so far. Looks like you were able to fall, into the standard operating procedures and get everything done. And if you have any questions or challenges along the way, I can definitely be a resource for you on that one. other than that, I am just going to keep pushing on the smaller things and just happy to be here with everybody.
Beautiful. No, yeah, I know there's a lot going on with City Coins as well, and we appreciate all of the tapping in and that you do. I don't know how, right? With all the different streams going on in the ecosystem, and to tap into all of the weeds that we can get into with this stuff. But we enjoy getting in those weeds usually, and feel free to hop in any of those advocate sessions, and you could probably find us in the weeds there. But it's been a beautiful thing. Yeah, but Merrick, you have any updates for us? Feel free to pass as well. No pressure, but we'd love to know, from your lens, what's been going on. Oh, we got Juliet.
Yeah, I don't have, I don't have updates, or nothing solid to show. I have things that I've been thinking about and things that I like, kind of two maybe areas that fall into, I guess, around governance. I mean, one is this meta test integration into PolicyKit, but that's more of an experiment thing, and that's going to lead to the whole VR thing. But that's I think Nathan Schneider is doing a MetaGov talk on that tomorrow, so I'll probably pop into that and learn and network a bit. But also this like video translation thing, I think that's something actually I think you guys were talking about this like years ago in one of the issues about like moving to Jitsi over Zoom, or you all were looking for a Zoom replacement. There's an issue somewhere that I saw in the last year, and we're talking about Jitsi, and the recent like Longhouse kind of cross with some stacks. Harold and Haas were there, and Haas was talking about Jitsi and setting that up, and that's something that I've been like looking at for like a year and just haven't figured out yet. But getting like, this is going to be important for governance, this international, worldwide governance that we do, is this having real-time translation capabilities in our video software. So being able to have a separate room for a translator, like a human translator who will be listening and translating as we go, so that we can have almost real-time conversations with folks all over the world, right? And I mean, eventually we're going to get all the languages up in here, right? And it's going to be super cool. You'll just be able to talk to the whole world through this like translation software. But yeah, I have no concrete updates on that. I've just been thinking about it a lot and like reading things, and I need to do more actual tangible things with that. But yeah, those are places I've been like dreaming and thinking about, which aren't so tangible, but that's how it starts, right? So yeah, I'll update that, check. And yeah, again, like I've just been like Jason was saying, just so excited and just blown away seeing this work happen. It's so cool every day. Yeah, thank you, check.
Thank you, Eric. It's been a pleasure having you in quite a few of the sessions, right, with the advocates consistently over the weeks, and additional meetings with SourceGrid, right, keeping us posted on what's going on over there, and probably doing a whole lot of bridge work, right. So it's much appreciated, having you with us. In addition to all the Longhouse, correspondence, right. It's core and at the heart of a lot of our research and development. So. Just thank you kindly for all of your time and effort recently. You've a big engine in these sessions, right? These sense-making sessions. Juliet, I saw you filed in. Let us know if you're having an okay time with the audio today or whatnot. If you'd like to give us any updates, I know you've been working hard on some things as well.
Yeah, the audio's a bit buggy.
It seems like we hear you now.
Oh, better. Okay. I have two screens going, apparently, and I'm still hearing the echo.
Got it. Yeah, we have no echo on this side, at least for me.
Yeah, let us know if it's it's too bothersome for you, you can pass until it's resolved or what have you. Of course, no worries. But we'd love to get your update. And I think you've been mentioning a few things in the DMs that have been pretty exciting.
I'm gonna try and leave and come back, and that might solve it.
Okay, all right. I'll make sure to look out for admitting you. All right. We'll get back to our stand-up maybe in the as we go through some of these items here. Unless there's anything I'm forgetting or folks want to include in the stand-ups, blockers or what have you that we may have missed.
Hi, I think I fixed the problem. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no echo. I've been having an issue where I get double screens coming up when I enter in a Zoom meeting, which is not fun when you want to mute and you think you're muted. Yeah, so hang on, let me try to pull up my other screen. So essentially what I'm working on right now is on the code of conduct, doing the SIP for the code of conduct. I've reviewed the requirements and I'm working on setting up the prior, what was the prior request for comments on the Stacks code of conduct. And then I'm going to be setting it in the right format and doing a pull request and putting up that SIP, and that should be done today. And I'll drop a link in the chat right now.
Thank you, Julia. It's exciting to see that go into the SIP world, right? Thank you, Colin, for all the effort there. Oh, did we lose you? I wonder. It kind of cut off. Let us know.
No, I muted myself, so I'm just pulling up the links, and I'm going to drop that in the chat. I think there's a lot of things that can be discussed about this, but I think it's a little early right now until we can get it in there. I would like people to take a look at the old link for the original request for comments and read the code of conduct, understand what it's calling for, and think about that a little, and then they'll be able to see the SIP. And then at that point, as I understand, people will be able to comment and add information. So yeah, I'm excited for this process to move forward. And I think we have some great setups in the GovLab to be able to use this, to be able to do some, get some feedback from the advocates. So I'm really excited. Talked a little bit, didn't really talk, but exchange messages with Haas about some of the stuff that we're working on with PolicyKit and how it could be useful for getting feedback from the advocates before we get to the full process. And I know that the SIP process for a governance issue is a little different from the process for like a regular change to the chain. So we'll be learning more about this as we go forward, and I'll be writing it out to keep the community apprised of what it all means for a governance issue being a SIP.
That's awesome. I wanted to add a note too. If you need just any extra eyes on that, or if you have any trouble with the SIP process, definitely reach out to me. I'm actually duplicating the SIP process for Citicoin's improvement proposals to do some like definitions and to define things like what governance or what the current protocol looks like or protocol changes. So I'm deep in the weeds with SIPs right now. So very happy to help if you run into any trouble there.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It was a little daunting to read the materials, the introductory materials, and the format that it needs to go in. And so thank you so much for that offer.
Beautiful update. Julia. Thank you kindly for all that work, and how important it is, how long you've been working at it, and how much it's changed shape, right? And likely still change shape as we integrate it with some of the other things we're doing. So it's a beautiful thing. Thank you kindly. But yeah, I guess we can get into. I don't know if we have anybody here that can give us any foundation updates, or if there's anybody here that is familiar with any updates that we should be discussing today, but I'll leave it open up for the floor if there's anything. I know this is something that dovetails with what you were just speaking to, right? In terms of governance, at least at the very least. I know we've been talking about it a little bit as well in the GovLab, in terms of the ways that this can evolve. Mentioned some exit to community things, and things being worked on by folks at MetaGov that might be relevant, right? Down the line, at least, maybe not anything immediate, but it might be relevant for legal framework stuff. And it's pretty, I think, cutting edge when it comes to preserving community values while maintaining the necessary domestic international legal framework. So, this is a little bit different than what this issue is, I think, speaking to in terms of our current legal framework with the foundation. But maybe there's something, that's always possible with advocates or the GovLab, right, in terms of additional legal framework that can preserve community values and whatnot, right? Or is a little bit more conducive to this. But we also mentioned how in the meantime, that this is important bridge work, right? There's folks like Hero Gamer who I've had pretty long discussions with around this particular history of this position. I think he sat in on a recent call where we had really good dialogue on this from Juliet. And I think that this is a microcosm of what we're trying to do with bottom-up horizontal governance. Can't be evil core values, right? Is having bridge work on our terms as a community, right, to these more conventional, whether it's legal frameworks or organization frameworks. And so, yeah, I think that Juliet, I don't know if you remember some of our discussion here, but you've had some just early thoughts on how we can structure the position, right? You mentioned how you're pretty much the pioneer of this particular position, and you had some evolving thoughts on it. I don't know if this is a time to share if you want to.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I think that the position of there are two positions, one being the representative, the community representative. And that's what we finally got to in the community, is to have that community representative. I'm creating some looms. I created several decks and looms for the community so they can understand what the community representative is, and what the history was, why it exists, why people called out for a representation to the board from the community, and how that was an important issue in the first stages of this group that had come up by other members of the community, not myself. And so the role for that community representative is just one that's been created by myself, and to a lesser extent, the other individual, blanking on his name right now, who was also selected by the working group with me to be a community representative. And the thought of community representatives is there should be more than one person, even several people who would trade off and go to the board and give a representation or a presentation on behalf of the community that represented their personal expertise, their knowledge within the community. So if you're a developer and you know of some issues coming up that you have been discussing with community members, those are things to bring to the board, as well as looking at the impact to different entrepreneurs of key things that they need to use in their product development that's not yet available, and can there be grants and such for that. And while the board is not doesn't do formal decision making, they are primarily a sounding board, I think, for the Stax Foundation on issues that are coming up. They represent folks, the board members that is, that represent folks that have significant experience in crypto and in blockchain, and are able to provide good expertise to the Stax Foundation. So that's the macrocosm, I guess, and then the microcosm being the folks who want to become community representatives. And then the outstanding issue is the one that we see up here, which is the board nominations. There's one board position left, and Brittany had said that that was left for a community member who would be willing to step into the legal ramifications of being a board member, which includes having the directors and officers insurance, and then opening yourself up as a fiduciary, meaning you're taking on responsibility legally if some decision goes wrong that you have been a part of, right? So there's the two issues within the world of representation to the Stax board. And the original role that people wanted was a board member that was drawn from the community. But because of those legal ramifications, it was something that I think the foundation really wanted to go slow on finding someone who would fit and be willing to take that role upon themselves from a legal perspective within the legal framework that they're operating. And when you mention exit to community, and the fascinating work that's been done by Dada, and really exciting from that legal perspective of there are many ways to be legally on an international level, to be a legal entity, to comply with those taxes and all the things you need to do when you are an entity that is providing, for example, rewards to its citizens, its community members. And so they have created an interesting framework that is both includes legal perspective, but at a limited amount, so that you're not some full corporation or what have you. You have the corporate, you're a corporation for specific aspects within the DAO, the community. And as you can hear from my interest, I think it's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to diving into that a little bit more with the work that they're doing at Dada on exit to community. It's just amazing stuff. So I think that's enough. If there's any questions or any thoughts, I'm here, but I think that's enough from me on these topics.
That was beautiful. Bringing folks up to date on where we are and how things are evolving, and maybe there's something we have to include soon, right? In this particular issue, as it relates to all of the looms and the decks that you mentioned. I know you've been heads down on as well. So thank you kindly. It's a lot of effort and important effort inside that. But yeah, let's continue, I guess. We have action items at all. Let's see. There's been some updates to this, right? I don't know if we've gotten to speak on this. I think it's an issue from Ryder originally. And I think it's explained in the title here.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one too, because I know, Haz, you and I talked about this, and sorry, this kind of like fell off and didn't get handled. But as far as that repo, where's the best place to point people now? Do I tell them go to the Discord, or like what's the onboarding flow going to be? And we can get that done right away.
Yeah, I think we should definitely point people to Discord. I would personally prefer the channel, specifically the channel Start Here under Advocates Down.
Okay, and they have to assign a role to see that, right?
Nope.
Oh, good. I haven't seen the server from like an initial login in quite a while, so I don't know what's there and what's not. But that's awesome. Yeah, I'll get that added right away. That's an easy fix.
Yes, thank you.
No, thank you kindly, Jason. Yeah, I thought I saw some movement on that. I didn't know exactly where it ended up, but no, that's a beautiful thing. Thank you kindly. I think this was some older, or some recent things.
Yeah, this one was just a thought around making the websites that kind of run behind the scenes of project management and the resources repo look a little nicer and fit a little more with the brand. But definitely something that doesn't need to be addressed now. It was just more like, hey, let's remember to do this at some point kind of item.
Perfect. All right. Let's see. Looks like Hero Gamer's coming in here. Let's see if he gets in. Yeah, so I think this is some SIP working group stuff that maybe gets underway when Jenny gets back to us. But I know that we're going to be pretty involved in helping this along in terms of getting folks familiar with how we've worked previously. So I think that's where we've left off and have mentioned in previous meetings. Floor is open if anybody wants to mention anything important here that we may be leaving out.
Only thing I would add to that is that this is an open call for working group members. So anybody who wants to be a part of the different consideration advisory boards around SIPs, these are people who make sure they're well formed and within their area of expertise can then comment on changes or something else. And it's a pretty simple process. It just puts more eyes and more input on changes that come in, be it the governance COC, or be it like the Stacks 2.05 upgrade that went through. Like all these different things are outlined in that SIP process, and there are multiple people that can review them. So those positions are available. If anybody's looking for those, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. That would be in the SIPs repo. And that's also a part of this StacksGov organization. But you'll see in there, there's considerations, which is all the different consideration advisory boards that are available. And other than that, we definitely like figured out how to do it as the governance cab, and we can replicate that process for anybody else if we get like ethics, economics, or anything else on board.
You know, it's really important to let folks know this is a point of accessibility, right? A pretty important one. So thank you kindly. But yeah, I think this is dovetails with what you were speaking to earlier, right, Juliet? I mean, you mentioned a link in the chat. Is this the same link or a different one? Sorry if you're AFK. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm here.
Yeah, I can confirm that's the same link. So issue number 132, this is the request for comment that she was asking us to review earlier.
Yes, correct. Beautiful. That's so. Yeah, so thank you kindly, Juliet, for continuing to work on this and mentioning it earlier. This is where folks can see what's going on and add to anything, right? So it's where we can have dialogue and had a little bit previous. Beautiful. So this is correct, Julia. This is where you would like to have us have the dialogue, right? About any of the changes. Oh, did we lose it? But yeah, I'm assuming so. Yeah. Let's see. And I guess this getting you some updates. It'll probably be updates that would be useful to our residency GitHub as well, when it comes to all that we're doing, not just in onboarding folks, but now we have some updates in terms of testing and of testing of the tooling. So, and we have some flow charts as well that show, how the tooling can use within the system design. So maybe this will be something updated here for our next call. Sorry, I didn't get that in here already, but I guess trying to make it right for the other GitHub updates as well, and make sure that there's as many additions as possible for folks actually using the tooling, and there's not so much confusion in applying the system design. So yeah, that's where I'm at with updates to this Stacks decision-making testing. You have any other ideas that maybe make sense here, Haz? I think your user stories is maybe it might be a good place for it here. But yeah, I guess we can leave the floor open if there's any questions or
Yes.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Probably, maybe.
And yeah, I think this is backlogged GitHub pages and domain stuff that you've mentioned, right? Jason, just making things look prettier, right? So I think we discussed that before, and let's see.
Yeah, no need on that one. Let's move on to discussions.
Yeah, I think we have some interesting stuff here from both Friedger and Philip. So the most recent one is Philip. I don't know if any folks here caught this discussion, linked a little bit of the dialogue in the Discord here, and a nice blurb from Philip. And yeah, we could probably just leave it up for discussion here in terms of just opening up the floor. But I know I mentioned in the Discord dialogue with Philip that there may be some overlap with how we're thinking about journeys, or our version of task creation, so-called bounties models, right, in advocates. And we're trying to apply some system design to that, some commons, thinking as well. But also, hopefully, there's an important connection to the ambassadors program and grants program as well, in terms of, carving paths, right, for community support, or engendering ideas directly from the community that, fall in line or align with community values. That might be something interesting to Philip. But maybe from this blurb, he has other things in mind, right, in regards to maybe some of the accelerated projects or other ways that funding goes into the ecosystem, right? But I'll leave the floor open for discussion and see if folks have any ideas, right, in terms of some bridge work here that it seems like Philip is saying is important, right? For to not lose some loyal Stacks community in the ecosystem that could probably use some funding, right? So yeah, I don't know if folks want to speak to this or have any other ideas in terms of paths forward, right? Or if they're aware of other things that maybe could Philip or others can plug into that to ease this this particular concern, right?
I wonder if there can be some sense making about this, some dialogue about this, so that we can see where the holdbacks is. Maybe hearing from Philip a little more about the experience he has had. And I'm sure that there are many people that have been here and since those app mining days that feel as though they are not maybe not getting grants or funding or what have you. Whereas there are so many new projects. And I think that goes hand in glove with the being up to the 2.0 and 2.1 blockchain, and that we have a lot of different types of projects now. But that doesn't mean that those projects that are based on sort of the Gaia ecosystem shouldn't be given fair analysis when it comes to achieving grants. So I think that these are all things for community to talk to speak to in circle and council, however we want to describe it. I think the governance lab is leading the way for new ways of looking at these kind of issues in the community. But at this point, I think maybe Harold, maybe you might have some ideas, or anyone else might have some ideas. I think Will would be someone who, perhaps if he doesn't have that connection, that he should be connected to Will or reach out to him. But I find for myself, I have empathy with community members that feel that their work is no longer appreciated when they've put in many, many years of hard work. So I respect Philip. He's extremely, he gave a great deal of community participation in this particular group for a long time, and really added a philosophical viewpoint that I think really helped all of us as we were starting this group out, as we were moving forward. So I'll shut up.
Well, and I'll add a little bit to what you were saying. You know, we had a lot of projects initially before the 2.0 launch that were heavily focused on Gaia. There was a lot of work being done around BNS and identity management. And I think some of those things did take the back burner as a lot of the new programs came about and everything else. And I would love to see this, because I mean, a lot of the people that were there originally were the ones I met when I came in. And these were the people that supported me and like encouraged me to even just continue doing what I'm doing with this working group or similar. And I think they deserve that same level of recognition. So yeah, I can feel this, and I think getting it to the right people and maybe maybe we'll ask Will to come to the next call possibly, or something like that. Would be really nice, especially if we could time that with Philip being available to speak a little more to what's described here.
Yeah, and I think speaking to that a little bit, at the top of this topic in terms of any bridge work between ambassadors program and advocates, something that Haas has been mentioning is could be a critical function of advocates, right? And the grants, connecting to the grants program. I don't know if you have any ideas, Haas. I'd love to get your voice in on this, as well as I know some of those original conversations were in dialogue with you around how important that could be, right? Whether it's for core value preservation in the long term or whatnot. Yeah, I'll shut up. I have maybe some closing thoughts on this topic, but I realize Haas, you hadn't spoken, but you can pass as well if you'd like.
Yeah, actually, we should definitely reboot the conversation on journeys, start over. I think it's been dropped to focus on the consensus flow, especially when it comes to design and implementation. Journeys, I think we can work on design first, just defining exactly how to translate your research into collective work, and maybe introduce the paradigm using the consensus flow later as we build that system. I think that it's still early for Stacks to say that that there isn't like a space for everybody. I think it's just like that space isn't defined yet, and that's definitely work that we can do as we involve more people in these systems. But yeah, I would just like say, let's reboot. Let's just start from the beginning with journeys. Let's see exactly how we want to implement it, and just get heads down on it. I think as the consensus flow gets into testing, we have more space for journeys to focus, to get the heads down on journeys. Yeah.
Thank you kindly, House. Yeah, and for folks that may be listening or are not familiar in this session, journeys is this terminology coined by Haas to refer to task creation or bounty programs with a systems design twist, right? As opposed to peer competition or monetary incentives. You have a broader commons-based incentives, long-term sustainability incentive. But what I'm thinking, just in recent conversations with Will, right, and how they're conceiving of the ambassadors program and this knowledge base, is that there can be some intentional packaging of both models and respective tooling or applications, right, that Philip is referring to, that Juliet was referring to, right, that are part of these older waves, right, of innovation, but are still nonetheless continuous streams of innovation that as new waves come in, can some of the momentum, right, is taken, right, and as Haas said, as long as these things are named, right, and some of the structures and functional aspects of the ecosystem, like something like the ambassadors program and the knowledge base connection to the advocates, where the Stacks ethos in its broad entirety, right, can be included in that knowledge base, right? Hopefully re-establishing some of the visible potential, right, that we saw when we were in the midst of those waves, right, that inspired us in a lot of ways. It's still a big part of a lot of our respective individual projects, right? And so, yeah, I think that it's just a matter of potentially packaging and, as Haas says, designing this this particular type of dialogue into some functional mechanisms in the ecosystem, and hopefully, this mention of the ambassadors program, advocates, and our approach to helping folks through the grants program, helping folks to, through the ambassadors program, through their community focus, right? A lot of the complexities of the grants program, of the advocates, of the ambassadors program can lie in advocates, right? Because maybe don't want to hit people over the head with all of that complexity as they're first seeing an ambassador's dashboard or first seeing a landing page for the grants. But nonetheless, there's a whole lot of preservation in the complexity of the advocates that can be linked to those more outward facing efforts, right? So yeah, I think that's my cap on the discussion, but I'll leave the floor open. I know, Merrick, you haven't said anything yet, so I'll make sure everybody gets a chance. Hero Game is here as well. I don't want to leave you out as well. It's beautiful to have you, by the way. Hopefully the lack of debriefing hasn't been too bad for you.
Just be nosy, that's all.
It's good to have you, man. It's good to have you. I know you'll be able to paraphrase some of this somewhere down the line and do us a lot of justice in communicating the importance. So it's beautiful to have your ears. Merrick, yeah, I know you don't feel pressure if you don't want to speak, but I want to leave the floor open.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, it just seems like, I mean, there's still a bunch of money that wants to be given away, right, by the foundation, and that's like this thing that, I mean, since I would just remember conversations around it last year of like, how do we get more money out, right? And of course, there's people that need money, and bringing those two together through this, yeah, embedding this complexity within the language of advocates is, yeah, a beautiful way to do it. Getting back at journeys and. Yeah, I'd like to be able to like, as I just talk to people, I'd like to be able to say, oh, hey, here's like some money if like that's available if you want to do like this work, but then be able to feel confident with that. Um, uh, yeah, I don't have a whole lot of much deeper than that to say, just that, I guess.
I think that's something to your last point, right? It's some language popping up in advocates about, bringing, these deeper incentives to the foreground of core values of can't be evil, or, long-term sustainability, for example, horizontal upskilling, these type of things to the foreground, and the monetary to the background, but it's still nonetheless there, right? So like you said, you can say, look, it's there for if you need this, right? But after you've already went through some of those incentives in the foreground, right, that hopefully can speak to folks, intrinsic passions or what have you, right? But I think it's an important point. I went into this point mentioned by Frieger now. Might have been almost a month ago now, but I got it in here to remind us, and it kind of goes over my head, if I'm be honest. So I'm be dependent on more technical folks to maybe enlighten us on how important this is. It seemed like I remember Friedrich speaking of this for quite some time now, not just a month or so ago. So I figure it's important for us to get it into one of these sessions, and to get us all, I guess, caught up on exactly the importance. I don't know how many other folks have seen this already or saw this pop up in the Discord, but Friedgar, I think, has a hard time making these sessions, and wanted us to wanted a place to. Oh, thank you kindly, Jason, for your time. No worries, of course. Have a beautiful day. This is gone already, but yeah. Hans, do you have a better idea of what Friedrich is getting at here, and maybe can spark some dialogue for us? I'm not sure.
What I'm reading is that the code that's hosted, the open source code that's hosted in the Hero Systems GitHub organization is not fair. At least the part about the Stacks node and the things that he mentioned about the auth protocol and the transaction signing. So it's probably, I think he's referring to the contributions that specifically Jesse and maybe Jude contribute to the Stacks blockchain code base, and other parts like the SIP that he's working on with the auth protocol. That's what comes to mind, to be honest. But I'm not certain that I'm fully understanding this, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess a second part to this is, it seems like a second part to this could be figuring out at this point, right, about the legal successor, or connecting these different entities on this issue. So maybe this is a point of discussion going forward, but maybe we get some more insight from Friedger as to the points that you're missing as well, Haas, because it seems important. So yeah, I'll shut up there. But if there's anybody else, Juliet, you seem to have a little bit of understanding of it as well. And if I'm not being too presumptuous with head nods, so if you can enlighten us, I'm sure it'd be useful. But yeah, otherwise, I'll get
Sorry, I think Haas would know more about the technical end of this and what Hero has and what Hero doesn't have. I think from a legal perspective, there is an issue that if Blockstack, they obviously had the code for that some of this apparently is not open source, and some of it is important to community on projects, some of it, and I'm not sure if it relates to the blockchain completely, but obviously this code should be part of the Stacks Foundation and not held in a closed source environment when it's necessary to the community. Because I think everything that was Blockstack, well, not all of it, but most of it probably went to Hero, but some things may have been given over to the Stacks Foundation, and probably that needs to be parsed out by talking to the foundation, as well as finding out what, if anything, is necessary for the community moving forward, and that should be available to the community moving forward. And that's, I guess, mostly opinion, and not with a lot of background information on this, other than the legal statement at the very bottom.
Thank you kindly, Julia. It does make things a little bit clearer for folks like myself that we're trying to get some clarity on what it meant for us, and paths forward. So well, thank you kindly. It looks like we should start making some inroads to these other entities, or the foundation, right? In terms of I guess what he's saying, a reference implementation, right? So yeah, hopefully we can add an issue here, hopefully with some continued dialogue from Frieger, letting them know that we're starting to discuss it, and starting, folks like myself starting to wrap our heads around it. So so yeah, thank you kindly, everybody, for helping on that. I think there's other discussions here that we usually skip through pretty quickly. There's the governance lab, which I think could have some updates that overlap with the residency updates. So there wouldn't be anything new here, and maybe we start to switch that around with the residency updates. The bounties here is something from Jason for a while now, to help us with some of our documentation in the Gov working group here. And we spoke a little bit to it earlier, right? Getting some of the tables updated in the resources, some recent YouTube links. We have some other stuff that we need Jenny's help to get the videos for. But this was something that Jason had, right? An idea of incentivizing, right? Because some of these things can be pretty time consuming, and well worth compensating folks for. So maybe it's something we consider as one of our first journeys or something, right? It's something we've been teasing Jason with for a few weeks now. But yeah, the rest of it I think is just a lot of cleanup for folks that are interested in any of the education updates from our Longhouse efforts. We have a meeting hopefully coming up tomorrow, where we'll be diving a little bit further into some of our digital fabrication efforts, and I'll be trying to include how education, right, across different age groups, right, how it can be incorporated, right, different levels of digital fabrication or biomaterial fabrication, archiving, all these different things that I think make for good systems prototypes if you include some of these previous waves of excitement right around Gaia, for example. So so yeah, I'll shut up there though. and see if there's any questions on any of the things briefly mentioned here, any miscellaneous discussion from folks. I guess we could mention there was a recent, I could probably put a recording here of a recent meeting with Colonel folks in the Longhouse. It's somewhat of a fireside. It was pretty good. But hopefully we have some of those coming up soon as well. We're trying to match it up with folks' schedules across time zones, kind of tricky, but yeah, there's some exciting things there too. But I'll shut up and see if there's any discussion for the floor before we close off with each other. Let's see. The pleasure to have you, Hero, Merrick, everybody that made it. Thank you kindly. But I think I'll stop the recording if there's nothing else for us to add here, and let you guys have the beautiful rest of your morning, evenings. Thank you kindly.